Welcome to the Watchman. Well, we've got some cutting-edge stuff for you this week, including a shocking, on-the-ground report about how Christians are being enslaved and tortured in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. This is an exclusive story that you will not want to miss. Trust me, you won't be able to get Chris Mitchell's report out of your head. But up first, what an encouraging couple of months it's been for America's foreign policy, huh? Especially in the Middle East. I'm being sarcastic, of course, but really, let's survey the damage, shall we? Because it is extensive. It started when the Obama administration condemned the Egyptian military's ouster of Egypt's radical, anti-American Muslim Brotherhood President Mohamed Morsi. We should have been cheering Morsi's removal. He and the Brotherhood are sworn enemies of America. Instead, we've bashed the interim Egyptian government for saving their country from Sharia tyranny. And now we've even had to cut military aid to Egypt. Ironically enough, the time when we should have shut off that billion-dollar-plus aid package to Egypt was when Morsi was still in power. Folks, I've spent time talking to Egyptian officials over the past few months, and they are outraged by how the Obama administration has handled this, backing the Muslim Brotherhood, backing terrorists who want to wipe Israel off the map and who, yes, hate America. Guess what? The majority of the Egyptian people can't stand the Brotherhood and wanted them gone. The Obama administration apparently wants them back, and the Egyptian people are furious about it. We have lost Egypt, ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake about it. Now, where do the Egyptians turn for support? Russia? China? Lots of bad actors who will gladly fill the void and supply Egypt with some much-needed financial aid as its economy stands on the brink of collapse. Speaking of collapse, Syria has become a hell on earth. Over 110,000 people dead in that country's civil war, with hundreds of thousands of more refugees fleeing the country every day. Iran and Hezbollah have made clear that they will not let Assad fall. In the meantime, Syria has also become a magnet for al-Qaeda and its allies. Remember, this is the country with the largest biological and chemical weapons stockpile in the Middle East. Yet, the Obama administration's policy in Syria over the past 3 years has been schizophrenic. And now we farm that policy out to Putin's Russia to take care of the Syria problem. Folks, that's embarrassing. Now, I've said all along that America should go nowhere near Syria. We should not get involved in a bloody civil war where America's jihadist enemies are killing each other. But it's also probably not a good idea to hand our Syria policy over to a Russian tyrant. So, to review, we now have zero influence in Egypt and in Syria. Oh, and we're committed to a grand bargain with Iran over its nuclear weapons program. The Obama administration has fallen head over heels for the smiling new Iranian president, Hassan Rouhani, and they are determined to cut a deal that would let them off the hook and let Iran get the bomb. It's no wonder the Israelis are furious. They know what a nuclear Iran means for them and for the world, including America. Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states are also beside themselves over Obama's moves in the region. The Saudis are now reportedly even talking about cutting diplomatic ties with the U.S. Look, I'm no fan of the Saudi regime, to say the least. But on Iran, they're right. A nuclear Iran is a world problem, folks, not an Israeli problem. This is just a small sampling of where things stand right now with America's Middle East policies. I didn't even get into the ridiculous push for an Israeli-Palestinian peace deal, the growth of al-Qaeda around the world, or Turkey's continued radical turn. Things are a mess, and America's influence in that part of the world is gone, except for when it pressures Israel to make concessions to its Arab neighbors. To be honest with you, I'm not quite sure why Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu even listens to the Obama administration anymore. Heck, No one else in the region does. Well, we're going to stay in that region now for an exclusive report from CBN's Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell. Chris exposes the horrific human trafficking and slavery that are going on right now in the Sinai Peninsula at Israel's southern doorstep. And once again, Christians are feeling the brunt. Take a look.
By that time, I had lost sense in both of my hands. It was the result of the accumulated torture, but mainly because both of my wrists were tied up so tight, and I was hanged up from the ceiling for 3 days.
He's just one victim of a widespread modern-day slavery, kidnapping, and torture trade in the Sinai Desert. You can find many pictures and videos of this horrible practice on the internet. We call this Christian man from the African country of Eritrea Philip, but that's not his real name. We covered his identity for his protection.
In some cases, we were tortured just because we were Christians.
Sinai was always a place for human smuggling, but since around 2 years ago, even a little bit more, it started to be also a place of human torture.
Shahar Shoham is with Physicians for Human Rights. They've documented more than 1,300 cases of torture in the Sinai. Those survivors, like Philip, made it to Israel. But most of the torture cases are not documented.
They torture them in horrible methods, like hanging upside down from the ceiling, like using electric shocks, like burning them on their bodies.
The story begins in Eritrea, where many like Philip fled from its brutal dictatorship. He traveled to a UN refugee camp in Sudan. There he was kidnapped by a Bedouin tribe. They transferred him, along with many others, through Sudan, Egypt, and all the way to the Sinai Desert and their torture camps. What happens next in these camps is diabolical.
What they do is make you call your family and ask them for the money. Usually they would do the asking. What they would do is they would say, you either send this money, or it could be your brother would die, or your father would die, or your son would die. It depends on whoever's picking up the phone. And while you're talking to your family, they would pour molten plastic on your body so that you would scream, and perhaps they would thought that might persuade our families to pay or collect the money faster.
The tribesmen demand what for most poor Eritrean families is a king's ransom.
The ransom fees right now can go up to $40,000 for an individual and even $50,000. And until the ransom fees will not be paid, the people will not be released.
The financial burden on the families is devastating. Sister Aziza is a Catholic nun from Eritrea and based in Jerusalem. She interviews many of the Sinai survivors.
People are destroyed psychologically, physically, because of also that, because they know what happened to their family and how they are living.
But many do not make it out alive. Many with Philip died. Yet the torture and the dying go on. We talked with a 35-year-old Eritrean woman named Sagan while she was still in captivity. She was 5 months pregnant. The kidnappers give them cell phones so they can call their family and friends to beg for money. Maron Estefanos, an Eritrean human rights activist living in Sweden, arranged our conversation. We talked via Skype, linking Sweden, Jerusalem, and the Sinai Desert. It was sobering. You could hear the strain in Sagan's voice.
They're asking for money every minute. They hit us. They would make them lie down in the floor, and then they would hit their feet and melt with melted plastic bags, and also so that way they cannot stand, because they would torture their feet, and at the same time, she said every day they hang them like the way they used to hang Jesus Christ.
A majority of the Eritreans, like Sagan and Philip, are Christians. Many don't survive.
There are around 7,000 people that went through these torture camps and 4,000 that died. Those are huge numbers, and I don't think the world needs to keep quiet about that.
Philip miraculously survived and made it to Israel, where he received life-saving medical treatment. The location of these torture camps is no secret.
Their location and whereabouts is known already to many high officials.
But so far, the government of Egypt hasn't done anything about them.
The only way out of this problem is for the international society, for the international community to put pressure on the Egyptian government to release these victims, to stop these human traffickers.
Majed El-Shafi, a human rights activist, believes some of the American financial aid to Egypt could be used with conditions to help these victims.
Every American listening to us right now, not only Americans, anybody in the world, you can make a difference. You can contact your congressman, you can contact your senator, you can show them that you care about these issues. If you send an emails or fax or you make a telephone call, you can save a life.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Up next, the Middle East mapped out like you've never seen it before. Don't move.
Hi, my name is Breda. I'm just your typical 9-year-old. I love singing, dancing, reading, discovering the simple truth. My grandpa says you're never too young or old to learn the value of a dollar. He taught me the true value of this paper dollar. You see this little gold coin? It says $1 on it. But guess what? That was a long time ago. Today, this gold dollar is worth over 100 paper dollars. This paper dollar is now only worth 1 penny compared to America's former money, the gold dollar. My grandpa says the only money worth saving today is real money, gold or silver coins. He's pretty smart. How our paper dollars lost their value, he says. It's all explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. It's easy and fun to read. If you call the number on the screen, I will send you a copy totally free. Next time, I will explain the simple truth about money.
Help! If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was. Help! And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
And welcome back. Welcome to the Watchman War Room here. So you think you know about Israel. You think you know the threats Israel is up against. Of course, Iran is developing nuclear weapons. Of course, the Palestinians want a state. Hamas is firing rockets. Hezbollah has some 60,000 rockets and missiles pointed at every inch of the Jewish state. But folks, it's much deeper than you can even imagine. I'm joined today by my friend Mark Langfan. He's the chairman of Americans for a Safe Israel. And Mark has done a fantastic job of breaking down the security threats facing Israel in just these amazing maps. I've never seen anything like them. I think they're enlightening. I think you're going to learn something today. Mark, first of all, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
We are going to start. You have a series of these magnificent maps you can find at marklangfan.com. We're going to start on this broader map of the Middle East. Mark, walk us through this map. Here's tiny Israel, folks, the size of New Jersey. Mark, walk us through and show us what Israel is up against.
Well, this map is really not just to show what Israel is up against, but more the point relating Israel to Greece and to NATO and Western civilization. Because oftentimes Israel is couched as a little Satan, whereas America is a big Satan.
Sure.
What this really shows is that Israel is the tip of the West spear.
Yeah.
And without Israel, you would have a Muslim tsunami vectoring right into Greece and NATO.
Right. How many Muslims here?
You've got 370 million Muslims, and in this little corner up here, you've got 11 million Greeks. Right. Now, the only non-Muslim country between 11 million Greeks and 370 million Muslims is the 6 million Jews of Israel.
So Israel, what you're saying, Mark, Israel is essentially the first line of defense for Western civilization.
The first and, in effect, the last line of defense, because between Israel and Greece, there's nothing except Cyprus.
Right, which is 1 million Christians, by the way. And Mark, let's just lay it on the table here. If, God forbid, the Iranians and the jihadists succeeded in their plans to wipe Israel off the map, they wouldn't just stop at Israel, pack up their bags, and go home, right? They'd keep going.
That would be the appetizer. And then you'd be for the main course.
Right into Europe. And on to the land of the great Satan, America.
That's right.
Mark, let's walk over to this topographic map of Israel. This is fascinating. Okay, here is Israel. It's the size roughly of New Jersey, I guess you would say. If Israel gave up the land that the world, including the Obama administration, wants it to give up, it would be the size of, I don't know, Rhode Island or Delaware, I guess. Walk us through, Mark.
Okay. Now, how did the West Bank get its name? Well, it's the west bank of the Jordan River. But this is the great thing about this map. When people look at this map, including the New York Times editorial board, I must add, I walk into the New York Times editorial board, and the editor says, oh, this is the West Bank. You're never going to prove to me that that's strategic, that area there. And I say to him, you know, you're right, that is the West Bank. But that's not the West Bank we know and love, or know and love to fight about. The West Bank is actually this mountain range here.
Yes.
Okay? And these are the mountains of Samaria. These are the mountains of Judea.
The biblical heartland.
The biblical heartland of Israel. Yeah. So what they're really talking about is not giving up this little segment over here. They're talking about this whole segment over here. And Jerusalem is right at the top of the crest. You see there's a crest line here.
And Ben Gurion Airport here. We're going to go over this much more after the break. Hang on after the break. Much more with Mark Langfan. A fascinating overview of just what Israel is up against and what a Palestinian state would really mean. Stay tuned.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need, just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
And welcome back to the Watchman War Room. We're joined by Mark Langfan, chairman of Americans for a Safe Israel. And by the way, with these maps, folks, you can find all of them at marklangfan.com. Check it out, see with your own two eyes. But right now, Mark, you were walking us through the so-called West Bank, which is really the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria, and what Israel would be giving up if it gave up this land.
Exactly. And so what I say really is this is not the west bank of a river. It's really misnamed. It should be the West Heights, in that these are the mountains. And the key here is I put this blue patch here. And just to give everybody an idea, between the Green Line and the Mediterranean Sea is about 10 miles. So between here and here is 10 miles, and between here, north and south, is about 40 miles. In this rectangle is 70% of Israel's Jewish population and 80% of her industrial base.
70% of Israel's population, 80% of its industrial base in this small area right here, which appears to me, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, would be in rocket range if Israel gave up these mountainous peaks.
Absolutely. And in fact, I have a plexiglass piece that I use to show the range of the rockets that are now being fired from Gaza. Now, some of the rockets go a little further, some of the rockets go a little shorter, but this is the approximate range of the rockets. If you were to create a quote-unquote demilitarized Palestinian state in the West Bank, it sounds clean, it sounds antiseptic, but this is not North Korea and South Korea where there's nothing in between.
Right.
Here you have, they always remind us, there's 1.5 million Palestinians, 2 million Palestinians. So they're going to be moving commerce in and out of here and smuggling, just the same way they're smuggling into the Gaza Strip and firing these rockets. They can smuggle the same types of things into this area and fire them into
Ben Gurion Airport is there. Every time I go to Israel, Mark, every time you go, we're landing right here within Katyusha range, and those Katyusha rockets can be tipped with chemical weapons.
Absolutely.
And on that note, let's take it to this map, Mark. Again, 70% of the Jewish population, 80% of Israel's industrial base.
So now, why is this so critical? Well, it's critical because Hamas and Fatah have fired about 15,000 rockets from the Gaza Strip. And thank goodness it hasn't killed very many people. And the reason it hasn't killed very many people is because this is mostly empty farmland. So it's basically like firing a Katyusha rocket from North Dakota in North Dakota. No negative against North Dakota, but it's relatively empty. The difference is if you were to get one rocket into the West Bank and fire it from the West Bank mountains into this heavily, densely populated area, it would be the same as firing a rocket from Brooklyn into Manhattan.
Wow.
Okay.
9 miles here.
9 miles.
9 miles from the West Bank, the so-called West Bank, Judea, Samaria, to the Mediterranean coast. 9 miles. That's nothing. Like you said, from Brooklyn to Manhattan. We saw what happened when Israel gave up land in the Gaza Strip. We had thousands and thousands and thousands of rockets hitting Sderot, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Beersheba even, as far as Tel Aviv and Jerusalem just last year, very close. What would happen? What do you think would happen? And Mark has laid it out for us eloquently and convincingly. What would happen if the West Bank, the so-called West Bank, was forged as a Palestinian state? This would be a new terror base. You would have an Iranian terror base, not only in Lebanon, to Israel's north, Gaza to its south, but in the breadbasket, the heartland of Israel. Mark, thank you so much for breaking this down for it. I understand it even much better, and I've been to Israel, I've been on the ground, but to see it broken down in these maps to me was invaluable. We can't thank you enough, and we'll see you again next week. We're going to have some more maps here with Mark Langfan, breaking down the Iranian threat and the black triangle that Iran is looking to control. You won't want to miss it next week. Stay tuned. Much more coming after the break.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring.
This is not about the music. It's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna drag her back home?
Yeah, I might. I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG, now playing.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring.
This is not about the music. It's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
that parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna drag her back home?
Yeah, I might. I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG, now playing.
And welcome back. You know, folks, I really shared some heavy information with you today about the threats gathering against America and Israel. I've said it many times, the barbarians are not just at the gates, they are inside the gates. We've made many missteps in the Middle East. Our influence is on the decline in that region, and these are perilous, perilous times. I continue to say that America needs to turn back to God to get this ship straightened out. Yes, elections help, leadership helps, but at the end of the day, if we will stop shaking our fist at God and get before Him and humble ourselves in prayer, things will turn around. Think of 2 Chronicles 7:14, one of my favorite verses in the Bible. If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Ladies and gentlemen, that was meant for ancient Israel at the time. That was God's word for Israel, but it is so, so fitting and applicable to America today. If we humble ourselves, we turn to God, we can straighten this thing out. But make no mistake, folks, time is short. So we're going to keep documenting what's going on here for you at the Watchman. We're going to give you solutions, answers hopefully, and hopefully we can get this thing straightened out. But there's only one way we're going to do it, and that's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Until next week, from the Watchman, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace.